Fishing trips anywhere, anytime. FishingBooker.com.
Pretty much all encompassing on the entire 53 acres has been fair game for me to do, my habitat management stuff on. The 18 acres of tillable, we enrolled 10 of it into CRP, and then typically I'm doing like 5-ish acres of, last year was beans, this year is corn, just trying to make a destination, for the deer to transition from my woods to the tillable acreage. That being said, my wife has always had a dream of doing like a you pick flower business. Actually, you pick anything, berries, flowers, whatever. Last year, we did an experimental planting of sunflowers that turned out amazing. The business wasn't really established then, but we just opened it up to the local community, and over the course of 2 weekends had like 250 people show up to take photos and to pick sunflowers, So that really got my wife excited about this whole you pick idea. There's nothing around here like that. So got the LLC established, and this year's the first official year doing sunflower and zinnia plantings. This is all taking place on part of the tillable acreage. So the dynamic with our tillable acreage is changing, and we have plenty of it, so we can both use some of it. Essentially, I'm probably going to reduce my tillable stuff down to maybe 2 or 3 acres from the 8 that I originally had for, that I was planting for wildlife.
Welcome to the Habitat Podcast, the podcast for wildlife habitat management, hunting strategy, and land stewardship. And now, your host, Jared Van Hees.
Welcome to the Habitat Podcast.
I'm your host, Jared Van Hees. We're here to become better habitat managers. I'm just getting home from work. We are cutting off early here on Thursday, and we are hanging out this weekend. Thank goodness to the listeners, and let's celebrate America's birthday this weekend. You guys stay safe and enjoy yourself. Today we have a great episode with HP crew member Corey Sullivan out of South Central Minnesota. Corey's a great friend of ours here at the podcast, and he's got some new stuff going on at his farm. He's going from like 8-9 acres of food plots down into more timber work, adding an agro-tourism or like some sunflower tourist type stuff to his farm, making his wife happy, the family happy, making a business out of the farm while continuing to build better habitat for whitetail. We talk about how to switch some of this stuff over from tillable. He's in a CRP program. We're shifting a lot of stuff into the timber as well. So great episode on kind of his 55 acres or so and how he's going to continue to do both things for the family and things for whitetail habitat in his area. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all your reviews. Thanks for your loyal listenership here at the Habitat Podcast. We couldn't ask for a better audience what we have here. Happy birthday, America. Be safe this weekend, guys. Don't blow your fingers off. Keep up the good work. We'll see you soon. Maybe at the Habitat Day, August 9th. Everybody's welcome. Howell, Michigan. Have a great weekend.
Corey, welcome back, buddy. How you been?
Thanks. Been good, man. Been good. Just like we were just saying, just trying to keep up with the busy life, and yeah, been good. No real complaints here. It's been good. Excited for summer to be here and kind of getting to being on the lake and relaxing a little bit and all that. So.
Oh yeah, it's
how
been
about
hot
you?
too. Yeah, it's been hot. So the lake and the pool, all that stuff it's welcome time of year for that.
Yeah, for sure. It's nice. A little bit of a slow season, I guess, from a habitat standpoint, at least for me. So it's all good.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It seems like we hit a little bit of a habitat, slower season or less busy than normal season based on all the Marco Polo stuff we got going on. It was going hot and heavy there for like 3 months, and then now it's a little bit more spaced out,
Right. Yeah. How are you doing? Everything going good out there in Michigan?
Yeah, doing good. Thank you. Getting a lot of rain. The northern 70s all cleaned up, I'll be ready to plant fall plots there. And then down here, it's all very wet still. So kind of just waiting for it to dry out. And
I hear you. Yeah, I listened to your last podcast with your dad. You guys had just finished It was good. I liked it. Just it sounded like you guys got a lot of cleanup done after your ice storm or whatever up there, which sounds like a mess, but at least you're making some headway on that and getting to run the dozer and stuff and have a little fun while you're doing it.
Yeah, it was good. I feel like I'm at a good spot, but I'm trying to get ahead of the Habitat Day we're going to do August 9th. I'd like to have a lot more stuff done, areas for people to park and pull in and the water to be not flooding the property, but
right.
We'll see.
Yeah. I know how floods go, unfortunately.
Yes, you do.
Unfortunately, yeah. Yeah. Where I'm sitting right here was I would be chest deep in water right now. I mean, there's our barn right there. I'd be chest deep. Actually, is it the 23rd today?
It is.
A year ago today, yesterday and today, a year ago, the water was chest deep where I'm sitting right here.
That's wild.
Kind of crazy. That's for wild. Sure. Yeah. Yep, for sure.
Well, if people don't remember, who you are or where you're from, you're our HP crew member out of Minnesota, but give everybody a little bit of a catch up and background. You've been on the show multiple times.
Yeah. So here in south central Minnesota, a predominantly ag area where I'm at. We're west of kind of the bluff area of Minnesota, which is kind of the good area to be. So predominantly ag where I'm at, south central Minnesota, pretty close to the Iowa border. But yeah, I'm new here to Minnesota. I've been here about 2.5 years. This is where my wife is from, so moved here to be closer to her family and a little better work life for both of us. Just trying to get things established here on the new farm. We have 53 acres here where we live. 18 of it is tillable on the east half of the property, and then the west half of the property is all river bottom, woodland, really. The house sits about smack dab in the middle of the property, which kind of splits it up. I don't want to say in a bad way, but it just adds some difficulty to things because the deer, have to come within about 100, 150 yards of my house to transition from the wood side to the fields that are, you can see behind me. So, just trying to figure out the new area here and, get used to Minnesota and being a Vikings fan, which I'm not sure I'm settling into it, but, just trying to get it all figured out here. And like we were talking, life is just kind of crazy. So just trying to navigate all that while making the best of everything. So.
Yeah. And it's a pretty cool parcel too, when it's not underwater, it's got the makings to be great for sure.
Yeah. I think so. I've already noticed here in it's the Midwest, the soil is black gold and I've noticed here. So I'm from upstate New York, the Finger Lake area of upstate New York. And I guess to put it simply, the bucks just get bigger here. If a buck can get to 5 or 6 years old here, they can be really big, Pope and Young for sure. But 150 to 170 is not uncommon around here. The problem is getting the deer to that age. That's, I think, going to be the most difficult part of it. Shotgun season runs for 10 days. It starts like first Saturday of November, November 4th, 5th, 6th, which is quite poor timing. They just made rifles legal where I'm at. So it used to be shotgun and muzzleloader only. So now rifles are going to be a thing. You get one tag in most of the units around me, a rather low-ish deer population, just being predominantly ag with very little cover. You get one tag. Most people gun hunt, and most people want to shoot a deer with antlers on their head, even if it's a spike or a little 1.5-year-old deer. So I think that's going to be the biggest hurdle, is just getting deer to age around here. Just the nature of the beast. People, my neighbors that own 120 acres, they're great people. It's the 120 acres that pretty much surrounds me on the north and west side. Town is on the east side, just so we're clear. So there's a pretty hard barrier on my east side, and then the west side is 120 acres, and they're just good old boys that hunt only gun season, and the whole family comes out, and there's 10, 12 of them, and they refuse to shoot doe, and they would much rather shoot a 4-point than any antlerless deer. And so it just makes it tough for the age structure. You know, I think in the last 2 years since I've been here, they've shot like 16 or 17 year-and-a-half-old deer, and I think 1 or 2 2.5-year-old deer. You know,
Yeah.
so it makes it tough, especially, you know, these narrow river bottoms is the only habitat. And so the bucks can cruise them easily, but that also means they're going through multiple properties. And if someone's sitting there with their shotgun and one single tag, they're pretty much going to shoot the first buck that walks by. So just the nature of the beast, but we'll get through it.
Yeah, I'd like to say, man, I feel bad for you. I don't know what that would be like, but I'd be lying because it sounds just like where I'm at. So
yeah, I know. I feel like it's a problem that most people have, you know, but a lot of states, I think a lot of states are warming up to the idea of the management, but it seems to be lacking here, at least in southern Minnesota where I'm at, you know, which is okay. I mean, as long as you're doing it legally, I really can't say too much about it. And, you know, doing the hunting camp family tradition thing, I'm all for that because it's getting people in the game, which is, I think, a very important factor for us right now. So
yep, I agree. So I think what stood out to me in that story is your timber, and kind of why we were going to record this podcast. Anyways, you're kind of transitioning your focus of your parcel, and you know, you'll say it better than I, but I'm thinking the timber that you're going to focus on, like that's like one of the only ways you're going to help keep some more of those year-and-a-half-old bucks alive, if to your north.
Right.
So let's talk about maybe like where you're at with your habitat journey so far in the couple of years that you've been there, and then where you're going to take it with, and I'll ask questions along the way.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, pretty much all encompassing on the entire 53 acres has been fair game for me to do, you know, my habitat management stuff on. 18 acres of tillable. We enrolled 10 of it into CRP, just to get a little money back, but also CRP is a great program as far as what you're putting in the ground. You know, it's good habitat for wildlife in general. So we pretty much immediately enrolled 10 of our acres. Well, you have to own the property for 1 year. But right at 1 year of ownership, we enrolled 10 of our 18 acres into CRP program, got that all planted. And then the remaining 8 acres I've had in a mix of vitalize, just some clover plantings, and then typically I'm doing like 5-ish acres of last year was beans, this year is corn, just trying to make a destination, you know, for the deer to transition from my woods to the tillable acreage. That being said, my wife has always had a dream of doing like a you pick flower business. Actually, you pick anything, berries, flowers, you know, whatever. And we've kind of, last year, we did an experimental planting of sunflowers that turned out amazing. The business wasn't really established then, but we just opened it up to the local community. And over the course of 2 weekends, had like 250 people show up to take photos and to pick sunflowers, you know? So that really got my wife excited about this whole you pick idea. There's nothing around here like that. So we figured, you know, we're in a pretty good location for it. There's no competition locally. So we figured, let's go for it. So got the LLC established, and this year is the first official year doing sunflower and zinnia plantings. That is my wife's passion, and she's got 35 blueberry bushes that she's planted and similar number of raspberries, and it'll take a few years for that to get established, but this is all taking place on part of the tillable acreage, which I guess is taking away from, you know, what I'm planting for, you know, the wildlife and all that. So the dynamic with our tillable acreage is changing, and we have plenty of it, so we can both use some of it. but the strategy and how we're going to use it is definitely changing. I actually just wrote a letter to the local FSA requesting to terminate our CRP contract, which it's one of those things where the earlier you do it, the cheaper it is, because they're obviously paying you per acre to have it in the CRP program, and that compounds every year. And we didn't want to be in a situation in 5 years where we wanted to take some of that out to expand the business or whatever and have a $10,000 bill, because we're getting about $200 an acre times 10 acres. So we're getting $2,000 a year. We figured it was probably smart to just buy ourselves out of it now. We're 1 year into the contract. It's the cheapest way to do it. And we're still going to keep it in the planting, but we want the flexibility to do with it what we want, So that's a dynamic change with some of our tillable acreage, the CRP that we have planted. And, essentially I'm probably going to reduce my tillable stuff down to maybe 2 or 3 acres from the 8 that I originally had for, that I was planting for wildlife. And yeah, just a big dynamic change. Life is getting busy. We have our second kid on the way due in December. My wife and I both just changed, not professions, but changed jobs over the winter, changed employers over the winter. And so just getting started with the new job and all that, life is just kind of crazy. So trying to manage the new business, which obviously adds some craziness, plus manage all the habitat stuff, is, just something we're trying to make it through. And I feel like probably a lot of people can have similar situations. At one point we were both dual income, no kids, had all the money. I'd say that, but had all the money to ourselves and could just kind of do whatever we wanted with our time. And now that's all changing, which is a good change. And I think everyone goes through that change at some point in their life, but just trying to manage it all and make the best of it all. So I think one thing that I've noticed the last couple of years, like I've kind of already touched on, is trying to plant like 6-8 acres of food plots every spring. And then half of that goes into a fall planting while the beans and corn obviously stay standing for the fall and winter time. But that's going to take a lot of weight off of my shoulders because it just takes time. You're waiting on rain, you're waiting on weather, you're waiting on, spring green up and all that stuff. And I travel for a living, so I can't do it on the evenings and, stuff like that when I come home from work. When I'm gone for work, I'm gone, so a little bit different situation for me. So I think kind of cutting back on the food plots is going to be a good change. Just trying to figure it all out and manage it all, I guess, is, figure out how we're going to go about it all, as well as, incorporating all the business acreage in there. So, just trying to get that all figured out, get life figured out, I guess.
Oh, aren't we all?
Yeah. I don't know if you ever really get it figured out.
Yeah, no, I hear you there. It sounds pretty exciting, honestly. How much of the tillable acreage of the 18 acres is going to go into business acreage?
Well, so right now,
and I guess which part of it too, like up front by the road, obviously, or down by
So everything is, I guess, east of the house. The house sits if you think of our property as a big rectangle that lengthwise is east and west. Our house sits pretty much smack in the middle of it. Everything to the east is tillable. Everything to the west is the wooded property with a little bit that wraps around to the north of the house. And it's kind of sets up to be the nice transition between the wooded and the tillable behind me here. So the U-pick stuff is going to be closer to the house. And the further east you go away from all the wooded land is going to be where I'm going to have all my stuff. And favor in the north side is where I'm going to have my stuff. So like this corn right behind me here, I don't know if you can see it. This is a few acres of corn. There's a river right there, right at the edge of those trees that you can see. But all that corn, everything that's pretty much right here near the house is going to get turned into my wife's stuff eventually, or at least have the potential to. But right now, we're probably at 2 acres of what my wife is going to use. But like I said, out of that 18 acres, 10 of it is in CRP. So 2 of it is now 2 of what's left over. 2 of the 8 of what's left over is going to be for my wife, which leaves me with about 6. And then the business can have more of my 6 as we deem necessary, I guess. So yeah, I mean, it works out nicely because the north side is the closest to that transition area that gets the deer from my woods to those fields and stuff. But yeah, it's just taken away from everything and trying to decide how we're divvying it all up and whatnot. But how it sets up is going to be good for my uses, and good for her uses. So it's all going to be good.
Do you have to designate business acreage, or can you designate the whole farm as a business now?
I mean, it's kind of one of those things, we're not like, the business is not like a hobby farm, so her business would have to be actively using whatever acreage they're essentially leasing from me as the owner. Sure. So the business will pay to lease acreage from us as the landowners for now anyways. But it doesn't have to be, it has to be designated. If someone were to come in here and say, hey, wait a second, the land that you're leasing, you're not actually using, I guess maybe they could audit it in some way, kind of give us a hard time about it. But,
gotcha.
But yeah, we're essentially, as the landowners, going to lease acreage to the business. And that will then be used for the business. And that can change year by year, and just depending on how we write up the lease contract and stuff like that. I think there's hopes to kind of turn it into a little hobby farm and be able to write some more stuff off, I guess. But for now, yeah, it's the business and the farm, the acreage itself that we own will kind of be separate, but joined with a lease agreement.
Yeah, I'm seeing the beginning of like I think they call it like agro-tourism type facility, whereas you pick, maybe you have cider, maybe there's a corn maze, maybe there's pumpkins as well. Yeah. Like I could see that going in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, for sure. We're starting small, I think, is like what we're trying to do now and just see how it goes. But the idea of a corn maze, because sunflowers bloom for like 2 weeks, so you're limited, and so that's why she wants we want to have many spokes of the wheel, I guess, from a business aspect. She's going to have the berries, blueberries and raspberries, which they'll, have their own kind of season. Then we'll have the sunflowers. We have thoughts about doing pumpkins and maybe a little corn maze and stuff like that. We have the space to do it. So yeah, we'll grow as needed and as we want to. So yeah, I think, all those are definitely great ideas and something we want to venture down eventually. I think the more we can have for the local community, the better, but it also needs to be manageable, so.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different ways you could do that with your corn that you planted. You sent us a picture yesterday. That stuff looks really good, man.
Yeah. For the first time doing it.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how you did it.
Yeah. So that guy right there, that's the Soil and Water Conservation District's no-till drill. I rent that to plant most of my food plots. It's $75 to plant up to 7.5 acres. So essentially $10 an acre.
Oh my goodness.
So it's cheap. That's a $25,000 unit behind me, so I'll never rent it enough to pay for owning one. Mm-hmm. It'd be sweet to own one, but for now it just doesn't make sense, so for like $150 a year, I can rent that thing and plant all my spring and fall plots. It's better. No-till is better. hopefully, so we did beans last year with it, which turned out great. I planted real world beans, which really turned out fantastic. They were waist high at peak of the season, and the deer were really in late season and into the dead of winter. They were really, really digging those beans. And then rotated it into corn this year. I got really lucky with my corn. I went to go pick up fertilizer at a local co-op, and the guy that was helping me was asking me what I was planting and stuff. And he's like, "You just want some corn?" And I was like, "You mean for free?" He's like, "Yeah, we have all this test plot corn that we're done using for the year, and we still got acres and acres left over." He's like, "I'll just give you, 5 acres worth of corn." And I was like, "Sure, man. I mean, that's a few $100s worth of seed." I was like, yeah, that's probably, I don't know, $300-400 worth of seed easily. Wow. So I was like, I'll take it for sure. So he gave me that, and that's what I ended up planting out here, but using the no-till drill. I don't know if you've ever used a no-till drill, but it's not easy. You got to calibrate it for every seed type, and it's just a learning process for sure, but once you figure it out, it's not too bad. But got the corn planted. It's in rows. It's different than like a planter that farmers use because it doesn't space the seed out like incrementally,
like
right?
On a wheel.
Yeah, it's not on a wheel that has spacing. It just drops out of the hopper down a tube and then into the furrow that is dug by the machine, by the coulter. And so you can't adjust the spacing of the seed. And so, there might be 3 plants pretty much touching each other and then a foot gap in one plant. And then, some of it's mostly spaced just fine, at least for my purposes. I'm not harvesting the corn, so I don't care. But it turned out great. It's already knee high coming up on 4th of July. So right. I figure it's going all right. Yeah. First time doing corn. Last year was my first time ever doing beans. So, I am in the Midwest, so the soil, you can't ask for too much better. But yeah, it's been going great. I'm excited to see how it turns out. Hopefully it keeps going. I'm going to spray this behind me. So I put down a pre-emergent before planting. The weeds are starting to grow up. They're maybe 6-8 inches tall in between the rows right now. So I'll go in and just do a spraying of glyphosate because the corn is Roundup ready, and hopefully knock back those weeds. And and then they should just kind of be off to the races. So hopefully it turns out. We've had like perfect amount of rain this spring. It hasn't been too much, but it's been enough to keep things going. So yeah, good conditions should all turn out pretty good.
It looks really good. What kind of fertilizer, or what was the fertilizer program for that? I heard you said pre-emergent, laid that down, you planted.
Yep. Yeah. So did the pre-emergent herbicide. I don't remember what it was offhand. I don't remember what the generic name of it is, but yeah, pre-emergent herbicide that's safe on corn. Sprayed that. Well, actually, so even though I did no-till, I did till in the fertilizer. I got the soil kits from Ward Laboratories through you guys, and did the soil samples and just pretty much followed the prescription as far as those are concerned. Got, just the granular stuff from the local co-op. I have a hopper spreader for the back of my tractor, and Al from Vitalize. Everybody here probably knows him at this point, but he recommended just do a light tillage with the disc just to incorporate that fertilizer into the soil for the best outcome. So what I did is, because it's a no-till drill, it's not really supposed to be used on tilled ground, right? It has those big coulters in the front to break up the hard ground, to plant into untilled ground. So I dissed in all the fertilizer, and then I got a really heavy cultipacker and cultipacked it all down. Hopefully just to give it a good solid pack so that the no-till drill could work through there, kind of in its natural environment, I guess. I sprayed the pre-emergent herbicide the day before planting, and then planted with the no-till drill behind me. And just because the soil was a little bit softer for being tilled, I had to raise the planting depth all the way up. Ended up putting it down, I guess, 1.5, 2 inches, which is about where it's supposed to be ish. And it turned out great. It's kind of scary with this no-till drill. You never see the seed. You put it in the hopper, you go drive for miles across your field, and then you never, you try to get out and, look in the ground and see the depth that you're planting to dig them up. But it's hard to dig up a seed that's even 2 inches deep, even though you know what furrow it's supposed to be in and all that stuff. So it's kind of one of those things that you don't see anything between pouring the seed in the hopper and hopefully it germinates. You just fingers crossed that everything turned out all right, and having faith in the system is probably my hardest part. But I had success with the beans last year, had success with the sunflowers last year. Now the corn is successful. So I'm gaining confidence in the system. It obviously works, but if you do it properly. It's been fun. Definitely a big learning experience for me. Just trying to do the fertilizer and lime and all that stuff, because that all plays a big role in your success too, so not depending on throw and grow and hope it all works, especially when you're putting that kind of money into seed and the time to rent the unit and all that stuff. I think it's worth the effort to do it the right way,
Hey guys, Al here, Vitalize Seed. I hope you all are doing well. So we got a lot of new things happening at Vitalize this year, and I wanted to highlight some of those. First off, we got a brand new website. We just added a chat feature to that website, so you can get your answers to your questions in real time or as fast as possible. Those actually come directly to us, so we can answer those questions, as well as has some auto answer features for those frequently asked questions. So trying to further increase the customer service that we offer. Number 2 is we are offering bundles now. So we got a lot of questions about people trying to piecemeal things together. So we took the guesswork out of it for you. You want a fertility bundle? Add that to your cart, and it gives you all of our natural fertility products in one place. We also are adding bulk pricing. So been asked about this in the past, and we've done some, kind of one-off things. But for those people who are buying, 5, 10, 15 acres, depending on the product, we're going to be offering some bulk pricing options for that. So right now we got that up on Nitro Boost. We also are going to have that up for the clover, chicory, and oats offering, and might expand that to other offerings as well. Other things are new products. So we got our annual clover. That's a fantastic product for frost seeding and also for this early spring, especially for those who still want to plant Nitro Boost. They want to get that annual clover established. You could go in and drill your Nitro Boost right through it, broadcast through it, mow it off, spray it off, etc. We got our premium clover plus. I'm using that on all my logging trails. That's a fantastic product. I'm also using that often with our clover, chicory, and oats mix. So I might use clover, chicory, oats in the first year on my logging trails like I did last fall. Let those oats come in, they'll die off, and then I can frost seed my premium clover and chicory over top of those trails now. So those are areas where I want a perennial crop growing. So I'm using that mix. And then we added our brassica mix as well. We, of course, have our seed feed and seed armor. Those are selling fantastic, and various other products, guys. So please check us out at vitalizeseed.com. We sure do appreciate you, and we're looking forward to a fantastic 2025.
Sure. I think that's a good lesson. Like between the soil conservation place where you got the drill, or the co-op where you're getting the fertilizer and or seed, like there's people that know what they're doing there. Ask some questions. Don't be afraid to go try something. And even though you got the seed for cheap, it's still, you got your time into it. Like it's the fertilizer cost. Like there's still a risk there. So
for
those
sure.
people are resources that are around that do this every day,
Yeah. And they're, unfortunately, I found some of the local co-ops don't want to work with me because they're like 8 acres. What do you need 8 acres for? We're working with the farm next door that's 8,000 acres, it's chump change to work with me versus versus these huge farms that are surrounding me, but I found a place 30 minutes away that the guys seem kind of excited to work with me, and they're giving me free seed and stuff, here and there. So I think if you find the right spot, it's they can definitely be beneficial and definitely be a resource. And the guys are, willing to answer any questions that I have and whatnot. So it's been good. Been a good experience.
All right. So are the sunflowers and zinnias already in?
Yes. Planted the sunflowers yesterday in 100-degree heat in that closed cab, which was lovely. And put the zinnias. So I no-tilled the sunflowers. We had good success with that last year. I just mowed everything, sprayed around a glyphosate, and then planted right into the ground. And perfect. If it worked like it did last year, though, the sunflower should come up just fine. I did fertilize according to a soil sample. I just didn't till it in. But we're trying to be soil friendly here. It's a practice that we want to get better at and learn, so if the more no-till we can do, the better, I think, especially on the business side of things. So no-tilled the sunflowers in. The zinnias, I did till and then just broadcast and cultipack. The reason for doing that was, from what I've read, is there's a better success rate. I don't know if you've seen a zinnia seed, but I wouldn't say that they're small. They're maybe the size of a wheat seed, but they're very fluffy. They don't go through a no-till drill very easily unless you incorporate like a rice mixture or something like that. And frankly, I just didn't want to dork around with that this year. And we're doing such a small amount. We're doing like a 1/4 acre of zinnias. That's like, I don't know, that's like a pound or two of seed, which it's hard to run a pound or two of seed through a big unit like that. They're just not really made for that sort of thing. It's doable, but I just didn't want to tackle that this year. I'll work on that in the future. But so I just tilled the grounds and just broadcasted the zinnia seed over top and then cultipack that. We'll see how. We've never done the zinnias, but my understanding is it's pretty straightforward. And if I can do the food plot thing, I can figure that out. So excited to see how it all turns out.
I wonder if that downburst seeder would work good for a seed like that. I know I ran switchgrass through it last weekend and got really nice, even spreading, just on like a smaller setting. So I wonder if something like that would help on something like that. Doug would know, but
it could. Yeah, I'd have to look into it. There's very few resources. No one plants there are people that plant whole fields of zinnias, sure. Because they have a business like we're doing, but most people put a handful of seeds next to their, next to their front porch or something like that, but no one plants a 1/4 acre of them. So it's hard to find, maybe I'm not looking at the right spot, but it's hard to find resources as far as pounds per acre and that sort of stuff, so it's kind of going to be one of those things. I just kind of learn it as I go, which will be okay. It's fun. It's fun to challenge yourself and let your brain, get some work in. So
it's fun to test new things too and experiment. Right. So I like that. You're still going to have acres of food, CRP for this year. The deer hunting's not going totally down the drain. So what are you doing now, switching over to the timber side of things? You're going to remove your focus from spending a lot of the time putting 8 acres of seed in. I get that. That's time consuming and costly. So timber's on the forefront now.
Yeah, timber's in the forefront, and the timber hasn't been neglected since we got here. So we had it logged the first year we were here. Being river bottom property, it was predominantly huge cottonwoods. And we might have recorded we did record a podcast on me getting all that harvested and trying to find the buyers and all that stuff. So I had a black walnut planting that was planted intentionally here on the property. and then the cottonwoods essentially, and a few maples, a few ash, but predominantly the cottonwoods. And it was, pretty typical river bottom, what you would expect, just these huge cottonwoods with very little understory. And I knew I had to get those taken out. And get that canopy open up. And I think really the thing that made it beneficial for me was there was quite a few harvestable black walnuts as well. So that made it worthwhile for the logger, to come and harvest things. But we essentially just had the cottonwoods thinned so we could open up the canopy. And now I guess this will now be the second spring, the second growing season since that, and things are thickening up nicely. I haven't done a whole lot since then. I've planted a few like oak trees and, some shrubs and stuff like that, wildlife plantings. But unfortunately the flood that came through last year killed everything that I planted, all the trees that I planted. So that kind of sucked. But the flood shouldn't happen every year or even every 10 years. So hopefully it doesn't happen again. But yeah, so now that I'm kind of downsizing the tillable acreage, I'm definitely going to be able to put the timbered acreage in the forefront and just do as much as I can there. And I'm excited about that. We talked about earlier this year, kind of that transition area between my woods and the tillable acreage, kind of turning that in more to like old field habitat, and still going to work on that. That kind of has taken a back seat, just getting the business established and stuff this spring and the craziness of life and knowing we got a second baby on the way and all that. That kind of, I did a good bit of work on it in the dead of winter, but it's pretty much taken a back seat for the last few months. But now it's going to become more of a priority. Going to work on turning that. So it's a silver maple stand essentially there is nothing growing underneath it. So the idea is going to be to thin that down, probably 90-95%, taking the timber out of there and then turn it into kind of like an old field transition area, probably like some wildflower CRP mixed plantings, mix in some red osier dogwood because there's a couple wet areas back there, maybe some cedar plantings, just to give the deer a nice transition area to come out to the tillable acreage, without feeling too exposed, because it's right behind me. Where that corn ends is the river, and then kind of paralleling the river behind the barn behind me is that whole area. And I can walk behind the barn and see between me and the river. It's only like 150 yards. I can see that whole area, and I just want to thicken it up and make it an area that the deer feel comfortable transitioning through, kind of in those hunting hours of the evening. So one big thing that we did this spring was we planted 150 of those hybrid willows that you pointed me towards. Those, I don't remember if it was Coldstream Farm. It might have been Coldstream Farm, or what's that other one that does like bulk? There's Coldstream and Chief River Nursery. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I got them from Coldstream, but either way, there's two of them that I buy like bulk seedlings from, and I bought 150 of them. And when you get up to that number, they're like less than $1 a piece. So it's not breaking the bank to buy a bunch of them. And those hybrid willows, they should grow, a few feet a year at a minimum. It's in a little bit of a wetter area back there. And I'm kind of hoping to create a hedge behind my outbuildings just to give a visual barrier between the outbuildings and then that whole transition area that I'm hopefully going to build over the next couple of years behind the barns here. So, I'm excited to turn that wooded acreage into a priority. Kind of start rebuilding from the logging activity that took place. There's just a lot of trash, back there, a lot of tops down and whatnot. So I got a grapple for the bobcat that I'm hoping to be able to start piling up some of that trash. And I had some guys So there's a guy that works for Pheasants Forever that is like the Minnesota liaison for everything prescribed fire. So he kind of works for the state, kind of works for Pheasants Forever. But I had him out just to look at my property and see if we could do any burning or anything like that. And the first kind of task that he set up for me was just to start piling up all these tops that got, that were cut, that are left over from the logging, start piling them up. And then in the dead of winter, burning them, just to reduce the clutter that's out there from a prescribed fire aspect. That reduces the risk, I guess. And also there's a lot of, I guess, empty space back there that these tops are taking up. It's good space for wildlife in general, but I want to clean some of it up so then I can do my own plantings of, just all kinds of different shrubbery, red osier dogwood and elderberry and, some oaks, hopefully get back in there, just clean some of it up so then I can do with it what I want as well. But we'll keep some of it just kind of trashy just because that's good fawning cover and, just overall good habitat in general. So that's, I think, like the next big task. Where we had the logging done is just kind of do some cleanup and whatnot.
Okay. So I want to try to picture what your mind is telling you what it's going to look like when it's done. So right now, is it still have a fairly big canopy? Like, are you going to get a lot of regrowth without taking out more trees?
I'm getting a pretty good amount of regrowth. Cool. It's surprising in the 2 years how much it's come back. Maybe I'll post something on the Habitat Chat Facebook page just to kind of show people a before and after. But it's coming back really good. It's probably a battle that everyone deals with, but it's coming back with some invasives that I want to manage at some point. So that's going to go on the list. And I think the idea is just to let it come back as thick as possible and provide security cover for the deer. I have walked the neighbors' 120 acres. They're very friendly people. Great. They let me shed hunt back there and whatnot. We just have different viewpoints from a hunting and like management standpoint as far as the deer herd is concerned, different goals and whatnot. So I know what theirs look like. Theirs looks like what mine used to. Just no understory. You can throw a tennis ball 100 yards and see where it lands, So hopefully turn my property into a sanctuary, essentially. Just give the deer a place to hide out during that 10 days of gun season. So maybe a couple of them can get through until next year and, get that age class on them. So that's kind of the goal. Just get it thickened up. I have one area that just naturally really sets up with my transition area, to have a nice little clover plot. Nothing significant. It's probably like a 1/4 acre, it's like 25, 30 yards wide, and it just kind of connects my woods to the transition area. Easy access for huntability. And so I'm going to have that clover aspect in there, very minimal. But the rest of the 35-ish acres is just going to try to make it as thick as possible. Hopefully get these deer to survive the Orange Army is kind of the goal. Food is not a problem around here. Maybe in the dead of winter, just because all the, there is very little early successional habitat and browse and all that stuff being in a predominant ag area. But that acreage that's going to turn into cover by default is going to be food for the deer as well, So, it's that's the goal. Just get it as thick as possible. Give the deer that secure.
Yeah, I'm looking at your farm right now, and I can see what you're talking about. I mean, your river bottom, like that sets up like what I want to go hunt in Iowa this fall when I head out there.
I know,
like,
man.
It's cool.
It's picture perfect. And when the deer cruise, and especially once they've harvested the crops, they only have the river bottoms to cruise, and it has the potential, especially if I could get the neighbors on board with, a management, to go down a management avenue as far as maybe taking a few more doe and not as many young bucks and stuff like that. The owners, or I guess the matriarch of the family, he's getting old. He's not in great health. I don't wish this upon him or the family really at all, but it's possible. Hey, bud.
Say hi.
How's it going?
That's my friend Corey.
Oh, school's out, isn't it? So you just get to hang out.
Oh, yeah. He was just singing over there in the other room on the, what do you call that thing? Karaoke machine.
Okay.
So it's always when you're recording a podcast, the karaoke machine starts firing.
I couldn't hear him at all. If that helps. So
I'm trying to manage the mute button over here when I can. No, I mean, my thought, it's going to be hard to convince a whole family, but over time, if you lead by example, and send them pictures of 10 does you whacked and all this stuff, and I don't know. I mean, it could be, you might get somewhere, especially once the old guy, unfortunately, moves on. I think because my grandpa never shot a doe in his entire life, but it's just a mindset thing, I think.
Yeah, I think they'll send me articles that they read from the National Deer Association of habitat, different habitat things. So all their property is enrolled in the perpetual CRP. So it is in forever CRP. So it can, unless someone were to buy it out of that program, it is in wildlife habitat that they have to manage. So they're on board with that side of things. 120 acres is a lot. And I think there's only so much they can do because all the kids, which, I mean, they're not kids, they're, 50-year-old. I think there's 2 sons. They're 50 years old. They don't live right immediately here. So, they only so much can get done from a habitat standpoint. And I think their resources are limited, just, tractors and all that stuff. So I think the idea is there from a habitat management standpoint that they'd really like to be involved in that and are trying to do some things. And they've asked me questions about how do we get rid of all this, grapevine and, stuff like that. But it's trying to turn the page on shooting more doe and less bucks and stuff. So I think the potential is there. If they could turn that 120 acres into, I guess just, a better managed properly overall, I think that the potential is definitely here. I mean, the next property over from them, last summer, there was a 170-inch buck 10-point with a drop tine on one side out in a little bean field along the river. Quite often, he's seen by all the locals. To my knowledge, he never got shot, but the potential is there for some serious bucks out here, It's just, like we said, just getting them to survive. And it makes it easy. I don't want to say easy, but it makes it easy to hunt because the deer, I mean, from my tillable acreage to the tillable acreage on the other side of the river is 300-400 yards wide, maybe 500 at the widest point. So the deer really get necked down if they want to stay in the woods, in the river bottom. Yeah. So it sets up for really nice hunting. Like you were talking, like that standard Midwest river bottom, acreage, but it also sets up for really good, easy hunting, if you're out there with a gun and just looking to shoot anything. So it's I think the potential is there. Hi, Pam.
All right.
There's my little one.
You got yours out there too. Awesome. Hi, cutie.
She's messing around with the chickens, helping Mama do chores.
Awesome.
Yeah. How you doing? You say hi. She will be 2 in 1 month. You wave hi? Yeah.
That's a great age.
Oh man, it's been a blast. She's getting to the point where she can help out and she's starting to talk and happy all the time, and there's its own challenges because now she can just run and leave your sight pretty easily and whatnot. But this has definitely been my favorite of the age group so far. So yeah, 3 is a pretty good age too. People say terrible twos and crazy 3s or whatever, but I love that age. I miss that age already. Yeah, yeah. Yep, it's good. And like I said, we got another one on the way in December, so the cycle's going to start over. But she's getting to an age now that I think she'll understand and want to help and all that stuff. And so, yeah, it's good. It's good. But this is, part of life changing and having to change with it, I guess.
Yep.
So,
well, anything else we need to cover or want to cover on the pot? Kind of the overall direction of the Sullivan farm here today?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's pretty, we've already talked about the overall goals of the property. I think most people have similar goals. So yeah, just figuring out how to manage it all, how I want to manage all, and still it all kind of be what we want it to be from a business standpoint, from a family standpoint, from a hunting standpoint. And another thing for me, so moving out here, this is a transition in my kind of hunting world, I guess. But moving out here, I now have access to all the Midwest states. Acquiring a license is one thing, but just from a location standpoint, I have access to all the Midwest states. I'm 30 minutes from Iowa. It's not the good part of Iowa, but I'm 4 hours from Des Moines. And south of that is the best part of Iowa. Missouri's right there on the other side of the border. I've got Kansas, Nebraska, the Dakotas, Wisconsin, all within like 4 to 6 hours of me. And I'm starting to take advantage of that. I've really gained a passion and a passion and a desire in the last 2 years to do more like public land hunting and just going out there and figuring it out. And having access to all those Midwest states around me is super exciting from someone who is super passionate about archery hunting deer. I got my archery tag in South Dakota this year. I drew that. So going to go out to South Dakota. I got to do some turkey hunting out there this spring. So just got to do a little bit of scouting in that area. So I'm excited to go out there this fall. I've got 4 preference points for Iowa, 4 preference points for Kansas. So the next few years, I'm really excited to expand my, just kind of DIY public lands, experiences out there. So that is also it's not taking away from my desire to do the habitat stuff, but it's just changing what I want to do in the hunting world, I'm really digging this. Just strap the saddle, wear the saddle, strap the sticks to the back and get out there and try some new stuff. I had my first season here in Minnesota. I shot my first public land deer ever. It ended up being 145-inch 8-point, just a stud of an 8-point on Halloween on public land. That got me even more excited about just doing this public land, striking out there and just going after it sort of thing. So that's also changing my priorities just kind of in my hunting world. Which takes time away from everything else, the habitat stuff and whatnot. But we're going to be here. We have no intentions on moving, until the kids are out of high school. So I got the next, 15, 20 years to make the acreage here what we want it to be. And I've already planted the seed to my wife that, well, maybe we'll try to buy some acreage somewhere else. I've got a buddy, one of my wife's high school friends that lives here kind of locally, that wants to buy some acreage. So maybe get into, 7,500 acres somewhere else locally, that we can do some management on, maybe have better neighbors from a management standpoint, maybe find some land down in Missouri. It's a daunting task. It's only 6 hours away, but that's a long ways, to do habitat management and stuff. But it's my passion. I've always dreamed of owning land in one of those big buck states. So if I could find a little 40 down in Missouri or Nebraska or something, maybe, in the next 15 years that I could mess around with a little bit, I think that'd be kind of cool. So yeah, just trying to manage it all and figure out how we want to go about everything and still enjoy it. Try not to get overwhelmed by it all and whatnot is the goal. So
I love that. I think I would love to also own a property out of state, the cool thing is too, which you reminded me of when you said South Dakota, you joined the Patreon group. So thanks for doing that. One of our guys out there is in South Dakota.
Oh,
Ryan.
really?
Yeah, Ryan
okay.
Beasley's on there. So he's a land plan client. Yeah, Patreon member. I saw you were on there this weekend, and I think that's just a network of guys all over the country that we're building too. So between, if you ever need somebody to go do something on your future Missouri farm, we probably know somebody throughout the podcast network.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's also one of those things where I feel like it'd be, obviously it's easier said than done, but get 3 or 4 guys together from a financial standpoint, from a doing the work standpoint, get 3 or 4 guys together to do something like that. Cause I think it'd just be more manageable overall, and for me, I mean, shooting big bucks is sweet, but for me, just the idea of being able to shoot big bucks and owning a 40-acre parcel in Missouri or somewhere, would be kind of cool. Around here, it's getting difficult to get a tag every year, and Missouri is one of the only places. Yeah, Missouri. So Iowa, Nebraska is now a draw. The Dakotas are now a draw. Every state that borders me besides Wisconsin you can't get a tag every year. So Missouri or Wisconsin are the only states within 5-6 hours of me that you would get a tag every year. And if I'm going to invest in property, I want to be able to hunt it, at least deer hunt it every year. You might be able to turkey hunt it, but I at least want to be able to deer hunt it every year. But those laws could change in Missouri, so just trying to figure out how life is going to go. It's fun. It's been a blast. And I love this group. Moving here to Minnesota and not having my friends and my family right here that are really involved in it like I am has been a big change. So having the Habitat podcast and all that stuff at the tip of my fingers has been really awesome. So I really appreciated all that for sure. It keeps your friends close without them having to be close,
Yep. I love it, man. And appreciate everything you're doing. You're always doing good projects and getting work done. And I think going out and seeing the country too, the public land stuff, just wait till your kids are even a little older. You can tag along, come on. I'm going to bring him out, show him out west and the Midwest. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm sure. I'm excited for it. My daughter's already 2. She'll be able to sit in the blind in the next year or 2, probably. Might not be able to be quiet in the blind, but she'll be able to come to the blind with me and all that. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. It's all going to be good for sure. Just got to manage it all appropriately and still enjoy it and whatnot. So
awesome, man. Well, I love what you're doing. Keep up the great work. And thanks for coming on here today. If anybody wants to reach out and get a hold of you, I think Habitat chat group on Facebook, or Facebook's a great way to get a hold of you.
Yep, I'm on there. I'm not super active from a posting standpoint, but I'm on there. I scroll far too much, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, I try to post my Habitat stuff on the Habitat page and whatnot, and that's probably really the only interacting that I do on Facebook is Habitat stuff, which is fine by me.
Yep.
So yeah, well, sounds good, man. I guess we'll catch up again here soon, and enjoy your summer, enjoy the summer and winter, water and being out on the lake and everything. And season's coming quick, so I'm excited about that.
You're right, man. Keep us posted with your sunflower picks and corn and everything else too. All right.
Yeah. We'll see. It's supposed to rain the next 2 days. So hopefully in the next 10 days, we have germination. And once germination happens, then it's like, okay, something's happening the way it's supposed to, but between now and then, wondering if there's even seed in the ground, like we were talking earlier is scary a little bit, I guess. So yeah, we'll keep you updated, and hopefully we can get back on and maybe do a fall time update or something. Maybe I'll shoot a buck in South Dakota and we can talk about that story.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, I'll keep praying for rain for you, and we'll see you soon, buddy. Thanks so much.
All right, sounds good. Yep, good talking to you, man. We'll talk to you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Habitat Podcast. We really do appreciate you guys coming back every week to get this awesome Habitat content, and we would appreciate it if you went to iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to this podcast, and leave us a 5-star review. That helps us continue to grow
and trend in the right direction, attract new listeners, and help us provide better content in the future. Guys, we have a website full of resources. We have a blog on the website. We have YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all linked up at habitatpodcast.com. Our land plan services, merchandise, decals, hats, t-shirts, and I give away a free 5-inch decal to anyone who leaves us a review on Apple iTunes. Really appreciate it. I want to thank our partners, Downburst Cedars, Vitalize Seed Company, Morse Nursery, Packer Max Cultipackers, Stealth Outdoors, First Light Latitude Outdoors, United Country Midwest Lifestyle Properties. Thanks again, guys. We'll be back next week with another great episode of the Habitat Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.